John, you are lost in the matrix there. How are you tonight?
Well, Jason, I feel like I'm lost in the matrix.
I think we
I,
all
I need
are.
somebody to unplug me, please.
Yeah.
Pull that thing out of
I
my
would I
neck.
would like to learn karate from the Matrix. You know, John, I just received in the mail,
Hmm.
somebody sent me this little Lego. I think it's supposed to be me running the show. I'm not sure, but it's got a propeller on it. It actually was accompanied by a very kind card, generous Hanukkah gift from a viewer. And I want to thank that viewer very much. I wasn't an email on there, so I can't thank directly. But people should hold off on sending a lot of little tchotchkes like this, which my
I
grandfather
was
would
just,
have called it.
I
It
was
just
just
fills
going to
up the
say that's
apartment.
exactly what I needed. So if
Is a
anybody out
Lego.
there has another one of those, I
Yeah.
need that. So thank you.
I
That's a
appreciate
fabulous
the
gift.
kind thoughts
Yes,
on,
exactly.
after Hanukkah and during the holiday season. We're getting very, very close to Christmas, John, and you and I are working on a special John Cullen Christmas show for next week. I don't want to talk too much about what we're doing in preparation of that, but regular viewers know every Friday we've got our sponsor exclusive John Cullen Investigates on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsource the truth. I also want to make sure that people know they can subscribe to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. That's totally free. Nothing to do with the Hoover Institute, which I'm finding out some more things about. John's doing well with 42.5K subscribers, and thank you to the 70 people who are watching our simulcast on the John E. Hoover channel right now. You know, John, I think a lot of people do not yet realize that we have the backup John Cullen Investigates channel. This is a Crowdsource the Truth channel created by me. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Are we live on here? There we go. And we've got
Hmm.
simulcast on there, so thanks to the people who are joining us there. We've got Rumble, we've got Odyssey. There was some dust up in the news where Odyssey was sending some kind of email to Rumble. There's a lawsuit maybe in the offing. Do you know
Yeah.
anything about that?
No, I simply saw it, but that's it. That's all I know. I saw that somebody's suing somebody.
And everybody is asking if you've lost weight. You're looking well.
No, it's the camera. I
It
moved the weight
adds.
2 inches. The
Yeah,
further I
there you go.
move, the skinnier I get. So I might just sit back here. There we go. It's
Could have to
way
do
better.
with the wide
Yeah, I
angle
just get
lens.
smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah.
You don't want to get
So
lost in the matrix.
yeah. Well, I wanted to talk in this show before we do our Christmas show, which I'm really excited about. I think next week's show is going to be wild. I think people aren't going to freak out, but
It's
I
going to be
wanted
good.
to make sure that people see what I see. It appears to me that sometimes, when people, even when faced with the data, they just go on to the next thing. And I'm here scratching my head wondering, well, do they not see it the way I see it? Do they not see what I see? Are these things meaningful to me, but not to other people? Right. And if you don't see what I see in the numbers, I understand that, right? So that's why I'm trying to make these visualizations, these charts, these pie charts, bar charts, all the maps and all that, rather than just looking at numbers. And in fact, I sent you one or two video clips that before we even go to the slides, we may want to show the audience, because this is sort of the gist of the show, both on YouTube and our patron only show. So when we go to Subscribestar and Patreon in 20 minutes or whenever we go, we're going to focus on this data. And I sent you, let me see, what was the name of the thing? Hang on. I
These
sent you
data?
one. I sent you a little video clip called "Do You See What I See?"
Does it have that song?
No, I don't think so. Thankfully. And if you scrub forward to like 50 seconds in
You
there.
are the
Yeah.
king of weird aspect ratios. Like what? How
Yeah.
did you
Well,
come up
because
with
I
this
just
frame
make them
size?
up. No, I just grab whatever I see. All right. So this is the CDC. I go to the CDC and I download these massive spreadsheets. All right. This spreadsheet was huge. In fact, I just sent it to you and it was so big and you couldn't even open it. It's ridiculous. It's massive. And what I wanted the audience to understand is when I look at these numbers, I don't really see any patterns in them at all. Right. So I'm just looking. In other words, I don't have any kind of weird skills or anything. I'm not Neo. I'm not, this doesn't jump out at me and I go, oh my God, that's not what happens.
Right.
What I do is I chart the numbers and then work with what does it present. In other words, I didn't realize that in certain age groups, twice as many men were dying as women. I didn't know that until we did the charts.
Right.
It didn't jump off. The numbers didn't jump off the page at me. And what I want the audience to see here is just this stuff just goes on and on and on. It's just an unbelievable amount of data.
But isn't it true, John, that without charting it, there's almost no way that would happen? I mean, it's literally like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Right. So let's go to one other little video clip during this show, and then the other videos we're going to show during Patreon and Subscribestar at both Crowdsource the Truth, Patreon and Subscribestar, and I Am John Cullen, Patreon. How did I do? Pretty good?
Yeah.
That's my Jason Goodman impression.
Thank you.
So we go, right? So we do both of
like
those.
Me.
Well, whatever.
Which one do you want now?
All right. So there's one with the kids. Which one is it with the kids? It's called Derived Values, School-Age Children. All right. So there's a break that I published recently that we'll take a look at on Twitter in a moment. But to understand it, how do you calculate the number of school-age children that have died with COVID? Because they don't give you that number. They don't give it to you. What they give us is 0 to 17, under 1 year, 1 to 4, 5 to 14. You don't get 5 to 17, and 5 to 17 is the number that we really want.
Right, school.
That's school. So how do we do it? We have to calculate it. That's called the derived value. So the value is not provided directly, but we're going to calculate it using these different elements. And so what you're seeing in the video is how I do this, right? So I take the data from the CDC, I look at what they give us, and then based on that, we then run the formula and calculate how many kids are there if we start with the big number, take away the other numbers, and we get that 15, 16, 17-year-old gap. We add that to the 5 to 14-year kids, and now we know how many kids of school age have died with COVID. So they don't give us this number directly. You have to calculate it. That requires work, and this is probably why you don't see it on CNN.
Right? Well, they're too busy trying to take 9-year-olds to ski cabins and writing books and, collecting information on anybody who they've sexually harassed.
Well, there's that, but, there's always going to be that, right? Like Louis C.K. said, the Mexicans were throwing the kids' heads down the stairs hundreds of years ago, right? You're always going to have that stuff, right? So what are you going to do? But with this, this is the sort of thing that this is math using CDC data, but you have to do the work. You don't just click on the CDC website and it tells you 419 school-age kids have died with COVID. And so therefore, because it requires work, well, that just eliminated 98, 99% of journalists. It appears because nobody's reporting this. So now when we go to the slide deck, this will all become kind of apparent as to why we're kind of rolling through all these numbers and stuff. So for those of you who are not familiar with my work, about 30 years ago, I was the team lead that put together the mapping system that Johns Hopkins has been using to chart the outbreak and to show which countries are doing, with cases and deaths and vaccinations and all that. So this software is something that I helped spearhead over 30 years ago.
You did
So
not
when
do an internship at Shandong Inc.
no. But when
Oh,
I post on Twitter, my posts will say hashtag I am the map's daddy. And
right.
this way, when you click on that hashtag, you'll see a whole bunch of posts with that same theme. All right, so we have to do our public service disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an
Me
investment
neither.
advisor, financial this. I don't have any certifications whatsoever. So do not listen to me. The show's about entertainment and entertainment only. Don't come here for advice. Go to the CDC, go to the FDA, go to Pfizer, go somewhere else, but don't come here for advice. Now, the rules on Twitter state that claims that specific groups or people or other demographically identifiable identity are more or less prone to be infected or to develop adverse symptoms on the basis of their membership in that group, that's not allowed on Twitter. Well, the reason that's a problem is on the next slide.
Oh, she
So,
said it.
yeah. So the vice president of the United States says that we know black people are disproportionately likely to contract the virus and die from it. Well, that's exactly what Twitter says you're not allowed to say.
She
So
does
this
have
puts me
excellent
in a
teeth.
she's got a great smile. That's why she's always laughing. She, you
I guess
lead
that's
with
right.
your strength, right? You lead with your strength. So she's
Remarkably
always
good teeth.
laughing. That's it. That's what she's got to offer. She didn't do so well in the primaries, did she?
Well,
I think she was the first to drop out, actually. So,
yeah.
or something close to that. Yeah. So the point here is that the rules of Twitter have been broken by the vice president of the United States. I made a video to contradict her claim based on facts and data. All right. When I
But
talk
then they
about,
took that video off.
I never published it on YouTube. It's only available on Rumble.
Right.
It's only on Rumble. So when I say, do you see what I see? My frustration is I look at countries like Bangladesh, and I think I posted this as a tweet. There was some commercial from HSBC about Bangladeshi steel. And I posted a response. I said, I'm amazed at Bangladesh. They've got fewer people dead, fewer coronavirus deaths, with 167 million people than Pennsylvania. This
Also,
doesn't
isn't
cause people to go,
Bangladesh
what?
a shitholi?
It,
I mean, we can't even really say that because if they're able to take care of their people and we're not, who's the shitholi?
That's the point. That's kind of the point here is this should be making people say, wait a second.
Yeah.
How is this even possible? If this is the data, then maybe what we're being told in Pennsylvania is a little bit different from what's happening in other places in the world. So this is why I keep pointing to places like Australia, places like Taiwan, places like Nigeria, right? Because these are real places. These are real countries. And when you look at Australia with 25 million people and cities like Sydney and Brisbane and Adelaide and Melbourne and Perth, they've got fewer people dead in Australia than Delaware. Now, again, this is the sort of thing, it's like that should be headline news from my perspective, because I look at those comparisons and to me, that is so off given the narrative. It is so disruptive to the narrative. It's like, how in the world does Australia have fewer people dead than Delaware?
Well, and then why are they locking Australian people into those COVID detention camps? If
that's a different story. So that's a whole nother discussion.
we got to be careful what we discuss here because we're kind of getting into our mode of talking about facts, and YouTube hates that. We've created this viewer-sponsored forum on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen and patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. People can watch simulcasts on Subscribestar and Patreon/CrowdsourceTheTruth. But we've done that so we can talk about all these things that people are thinking about and that you and I are talking about without the fear of running afoul of some of these seemingly arbitrary rules that have been established. I think I was telling you before we started the show, John, and I want to encourage viewers to check this out. I started listening to this Robert Kennedy book, The Real Dr. Fauci. I mean, a lot of it is stuff that people who watch this show and follow the information that we're talking about are going to be aware of already, but there are some stunning insights there, and I really do recommend it.
Love to have him on the show. If anybody listening knows him, love to have him as a guest.
I've invited him, and I think there's some problem. I'm going to try to follow up, but I get the impression that he... Well, here, let me just say this. Because one of the things that came to me from listening to the book, I know you've taken a very hard stance that you're not worried about COVID on the basis of some of the other things that we've been looking at, but I can't even explain this here. We're going to have to talk about it on Patreon and Subscribestar, but listening to the book, it's a very large explanation of a lot of different things with fantastic detail and evidence, and it's caused me to think a little bit differently. I'll share it with you during the sponsor exclusive portion of the show, and I think people are going to want to get that book, and you should get the book.
I'm sure there's a lot of very interesting information. However, I'm a root cause analysis guy, and for me,
let's talk about it on that.
Yeah. All right, so here's a fact, right? So here's facts. When you look at all those numbers and you scroll through all those pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of data, I had a huge break. 29 states in the United States have no kids dead, according to the CDC. So this is the CDC's mortality data by state. Only 7 states have more than 20 kids dead. Only 7. So 43 states have 20 or fewer kids dead, and 29 states have no kids dead. And that includes New Jersey, that includes Connecticut, that includes Massachusetts and the District of Columbia. So again, to me, that should be headline news. You know, Gordon Chang goes on Maria Bartiromo to talk about China. You go to the next slide. And I'm sitting here going, you're going to go on Maria Bartiromo and talk about China and not mention that Shanghai doesn't have 10 people dead. You're not going to mention the fact that... Well, that's why I posted to him. So that's why I post the tweet to Gordon, Chang, and Maria to say, hey,
nice to Gordon. He's friends with Charles.
Well, then tell Charles to tell Gordon to be nice to me. Am I lying?
Oh, is he not?
He's ignoring me. Am I lying? I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm saying if there aren't 10 people dead from COVID in Beijing, is that not relevant? Is that a nasty question? I'm not being provocative. Well, if not, why not? What's more important?
It's not a nasty question, but you are being provocative. Let's just call a spade a spade.
I don't have that kind of social thing that I would understand. Why would somebody ignore this question when the data's right there? So this is the disconnect I'm having. This is what I mean with this Neo graphic in the thumbnail. Do you not see what I see? You guys want to go punish China? There's nobody dead in China. China has fewer people dead than West Virginia. That's not a topic. I don't understand how that's not a topic. Is it not a topic?
Overcoat.
Well, to me, it's not a topic, probably simply because of the getup. And because they can't come after me with the ad hominem attacks the way they go after everybody else.
I have some ideas for a slight variation to the approach that I think, listening to the Robert Kennedy book, it caused me to realize that perhaps there's a lot of considerations with these things, and we don't know any of these people. We don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't know.
Here's what I know. Johns Hopkins says Beijing doesn't have 10 people dead, and nobody wants to acknowledge it. Right? The CDC tells us 5% of the 800,000 people that died had just COVID on the death certificate. 5%. Everybody else, 95%, had 4 comorbidities on average. That means some people had 5 and 6. If the average is 4, we know the number 1 comorbidity is influenza. P&I. Yet Dr. Fauci told us that it disappeared. We know that 4,000 people a week were dying from it before coronavirus even showed up. So when you add up all these pieces of data, it tells us that the narrative is far from the complete story. If half the people that are dying with influenza. So again,
I think you're missing the point of what we're trying to do here on YouTube, which is to alert
avoid
people
facts?
that we're going to be talking about. It's got nothing to do with facts. YouTube doesn't want us talking about facts. And I mean, if we want to walk right into the buzzsaw, please don't do it while I'm running on all channels. We got to be really careful. And I'm not trying to disparage you, John. I'm just saying this is what it has come to. YouTube, even though these are facts, I know it's been a little while, but they shut down facts. That is why we do the sponsor exclusive show. So let's just go easy on this stuff.
This is just all CDC.
I know you're getting frustrated.
CDC. Well, you're on
Doesn't
CDC
matter.
page. Yeah. So, I mean.
Doesn't matter. It's become such a ridiculous anti-factual world that even talking about facts can get us in trouble.
That's a shame. Well, the next page is a YouTube summary of all of the videos that are the COVID showdown videos that compare U.S. states to other countries using these statistics, using the Johns Hopkins statistics. And so this is what jumps out at me, is comparing, states to countries, comparing states to Korea, comparing states to Australia, comparing, Rhode Island to Nigeria. So to me, if I'm using the data coming from the official sources to create these ridiculous comparisons, I'm hoping to break through the cognitive dissonance. And that's why I started doing the bedtime stories, was to stay out of trouble. Bedtime stories was where I'm reading the official publications, from the CDC or the FDA or from, the Atlantic magazine or something like that. But, I'm reading the flu season summary from the CDC, right? So by reading the official documents, we've been able to stay between the lines for the most part, right? But I don't think you should go to the next slide. I don't think you should go to the next slide.
Good advice. Well, we've only got about 2 minutes left, and I don't mean to be, squelching anything or anything like that, but people know what's going on over here, and there's been a renewed set of...
Yeah, we got struck a ton. So, yeah, absolutely. And every time we get a strike, I'm like, what the hell do we say?
Exactly.
What did we
That's
say?
why I err on the side of caution and invite people to join us in just about 7 minutes, a little less than that, on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. What else, John? It's like the good tweets, bad tweets is good stuff to do during the YouTube part.
But let's see where we can jump. Well, there's a bunch of states right now that are kind of having peak cases, and we're going to look at those states. So, Ohio right now is not doing well. There's a bunch of states. New York isn't doing well. Arizona's not doing well. Pennsylvania's
all
not doing
locked
well.
down now again here in New York. It was disappointing to hear. Somebody actually just sent me on Twitter, the legislative session here in New York is beginning again on January 5th. It's got a list of these bills that are very disconcerting. Apparently, Assembly Bill A416 is a proposal whereby the governor can imprison without trial anyone she considers a threat to public health. Now, it's not a law, of course. It's a proposed bill. Sounds like that's going to be shot down in about 4 seconds if that's a real bill. But in the last couple of minutes we have here, I do want to let people know that they can follow you on Rumble, John. For the moment, at least, Rumble seems to be a little bit safer than YouTube. I haven't had any videos, or maybe only one video removed from Rumble, but people can search for I Am John Cullen on Rumble. It recently merged with, what's that Howard Lutnick company?
Cantor Fitzgerald.
Right, Cantor Fitzgerald. Some Cantor Fitzgerald investment fund has become involved with this. And I mean, again, for all the people who said, ditch YouTube and go to Rumble, that never made sense for a lot of reasons. First of all, there's far few people looking at Rumble, and you can see the videos get fewer views. But also, I've had a strong inclination from the beginning that as soon as Rumble does start to get traction, somebody like Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor who magically managed to not die on 9/11 might come in and buy it and sort of do things with it that are very similar to YouTube. So for now, it's a good place for people to watch, but we always like to encourage people to join us on the sponsor exclusive show. We got about a minute left, John, if there's anything that you want to
Big
say,
stuff.
and then we got to make the transition.
Yeah, you guys are going to see some videos of the baselining. In other words, we're going to go back to 2013 and look at the deaths all the way back to 2013 as a baseline. And I've made videos of this to help people understand, you know, you can't really understand what happened until you understand what happened. And you got to go back. And so that's what we're going to do. And I hope it's going to make a whole lot more clear to our subscribers, to our patrons. So I think you guys will enjoy this.
Yeah. There we go. Someone's putting a note in the comments that's not making immediate sense to me, but we'll look at that after the show. We gotta go over to the sponsor exclusive segment now. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please join us